I'm the MadCatster. Am I glad to see you here? Well, you may or may not have heard of an internet sensation that's popped up on YouTube in the last month and a half, and her name is Ari, and her channel is All In With Ari, and she's allegedly a young woman who's homeless, living in her car, and she started her channel, she says, because she wanted to be an inspiration to other homeless people. And so I want to tell you about it because the more I watched her stuff, the more my spidey sense got tingling. And so I want to tell you what I think. So let's get into it. So I'm here with Miss Sybil. Miss Sybil says, please like and subscribe. We would really appreciate your support very much. So anyway, I don't know if you've seen or heard something about this Ari and her All In With Ari channel. Basically, it was brought to my attention by one of my subscribers who had sent me an email, and so I started watching all of her videos, and I also saw some stuff chattering around on YouTube from other channels about people questioning her legitimacy. And so I thought, well, I want to take a look for myself and see what I think. So I want to tell you what I think after observing what I've observed and watching what I've seen. So she started out saying that in her first video, saying that, you know, she decided to do this after watching some videos about homelessness and homeless awareness.
I'm just gonna jump right into it. My name is Aryana, and I am homeless. I don't have any family or friends. I do have a full-time job. I got on YouTube and actually came across some videos about homeless people and homelessness awareness, and one in particular called Invisible People, and that caught my attention because that is exactly how I feel. I feel invisible. But I could relate with a lot of these people. I might not be living on the streets of LA, but I'm living in my car.
And so she decided, you know, because she's living in her car, that she wanted to start this YouTube channel in order to be an inspiration to other people and show them that they can make it, that it's not as bleak as it might seem. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but so she starts by saying, you know, she sleeps in her car and she frequently wakes up to gunshots, sirens, and screams.
I have to park in different places every few nights. It's not safe. I wake up to gunshots and sirens and screaming, all sorts of crazy things.
So she apparently has very few possessions. You know, she has showed in some of her videos her folding laundry, and she's got like a scant amount of clothes, allegedly. Not really anything else. And she shows her backseat. There's a little bed made up on her backseat, and she, you know, claims that she has a cooker that she bought from Amazon. She says she buys a lot of stuff from Amazon, which is kind of odd, but she showed this cooker which looked like it was brand new, and she claims that, you know, she told us she has a gym membership, that she has a full-time job, that she is not, to paraphrase what she said, like basically she's not destitute. She says her name is Aryana with a Y on her channel, but she uses Ari with an A-R-I, and I'm going to show you in a few minutes. She goes to Starbucks an awful lot, and she showed her cup in one of her videos, and I'll show it to you in a minute. And it says Ariana, A-R-I-A-N-A, so I don't know what's going on with that. But let me just give you my initial impression. Okay, so she wants to be an inspiration to homeless people. However, by her own admission, she's works full-time, likes living in her car. She says she's been doing it for like a year, I think she had said initially. And she's vegan. She has a gym membership. She has a cell phone, obviously. Her job pays her bills, she says. She says she has a lot of bills, which I'm not exactly sure what they are. She doesn't pay utilities or cable or rent. So I don't know what her bills are. She mentioned a car payment. She's paying off an iPad. She's got her phone bill. So I'm wondering, does she have a lot of credit card debt that she racked up? I don't know. And please, people, I'm going to give you my opinion of what I saw. Please don't send me hate until you finish watching this whole video, okay? Because I'm not in any way questioning the legitimacy of people who are genuinely homeless, who have to live in their cars because they have no other choice, and because they can't afford basically to make ends meet from day to day. Okay, because that's not what I saw in watching all these videos of this woman. So she says in one of her videos, she started out, her origin story basically is that she was born in Ventura, California, which she sounds like a native Californian to me. But when she was 3 years old, she went to live with her grandparents in Arkansas and lived there for the rest of her life until she was an adult and decided to move back to California. There was one thing that struck me as odd, and some other people have raised it, was there's not a single hint of a twang in her voice. I mean, I read someone say, oh, in Arkansas, they don't have an accent. It's like, are you kidding me? Does anybody remember President Bill Clinton? People from Arkansas do have a southern accent. So, sorry. But if you're living with your grandparents, and she said she didn't live with her parents stayed in California and were in and out of jail a lot. So if you're raised by these, I'm assuming native Arkansans, and you have not a shred of an accent, that just struck me as really bizarre. Okay, because she sounds, as I listened to a lot of her videos, I don't detect anything other than the sound of a native Californian to me. Okay, so that's just one of my observations, all right? So she says she has no friends or family. She says that she was in a bad relationship and that she had to leave, and she had to leave everything behind. And, you know, I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm not going to pass judgment certainly on that, because I don't know. That could very well all be true. Had basically no friends or family, and that she had relatives in California that she hadn't talked to and was, I guess, estranged from. And yet then she says, well, she talked to her father, who allegedly she doesn't have any kind of a relationship with, and he was like, well, come move in with me and your grandparents here in California. And it was like, okay, my parents got divorced when I was really young, and I was estranged from my father's family and my father. The last thing that my father and my grandparents would have wanted would be for me to say, I need to move in with you because I've got nowhere else to go. I know that sounds cold, but if any of you have been in a similar situation, if you don't have a relationship with your... Oops, sorry, Sybil. You okay? If you don't have a relationship with your father and your father's family, it's not very believable to me that... And I don't... You know, she could be the anomaly in this situation, but it strikes me as odd that they would just say, come and move in with us. And, you know, no strings attached when you have, like, no relationship with these people. So that just struck me as really weird. So, and again, I don't know that part of it. I don't know what the factual story is, but I'm going to share with you some of the other stuff that I watched in her videos and why some of these things have struck me as odd. The first thing I want to address is she talked about how she wakes up to gunshots and sirens and screams and how it's so dangerous where she parks her car. Yet, most of the time, she's like parked by the beach, or I saw she was parked in a residential neighborhood that did not look unsafe at all. It looked like a Los Angeles run-of-the-mill street that did not look dangerous. I saw that she had been parked in some parking garages, and that just struck me as odd. Okay, so if you're homeless, but you have a job and you've got money and stuff, why would you intentionally park your car in a dangerous area when you can park anywhere you want? And clearly she does. She parks by the beach a lot. That struck me as really weird. It's like, so she's parked in dangerous and she fears for her safety, but, you know, then every time I see where she's parked, I see the beach a lot of the time. I saw that residential street. I saw nothing that to me looked like it was dangerous. And certainly if you have a choice, why would you park in a dangerous area? So that right there struck me as disingenuous. So that was the first thing that I had a problem with. The next thing I had a problem with was, like, she had a video on August 7th and she's filming it in a hotel room. And she doesn't, like, give any kind of an explanation, like, why she's in a hotel room, or, you know, if she's so strapped for cash, how she can afford a hotel room. And she talks a little bit more about what happened when she came to California. And she says that, you know, her father said, come live with us. And that apparently For the first 2 months, she said she lived in like, there's like, was a lower level of the house where the grandmother, who I guess didn't know she was in the house for like the first 2 months until her father finally broke it to the grandmother. And then she goes on about how the grandmother gradually like came to like her a little bit and they had some kind of a relationship. And she talks about how they were involved in like car shows and they wondered why she wasn't going to car shows with them and all this other stuff, and how gradually over time the grandmother's mental health deteriorated. I don't know, it sounded like she might have dementia, and how things finally like broke down and she was forced to leave, and that for a while she was parking on the street near their house, but then they said they were going to call the cops on her if she didn't leave.
So this is for my subscribers, the people that love me and support me. This is for you. And one night she was like, she was screaming at my dad saying, I want her the hell out of my house, get her the fuck out of my house. That's how I got to the point of sleeping in my car outside of their house. Basically texted me and said that if I didn't leave that he would call the cops. He was like, go smoke your problems elsewhere, go back to Arkansas.
So here's a couple of things. The first thing is, she made it sound like she only stayed with them for like 2 or 3 months. I think she said a few months. But the way she talks about this interaction with her family, it sounds like she was there for quite a while. Because the way she talked about the development of the story, that all could not have happened in 2 or 3 months. You know, her grandmother's mental health, you know, they couldn't have formed a bond and then had a deterioration. And by the way, she says the grandmother, she had to leave because the grandmother was jealous of her youth and beauty, which, first of all, that sounds a little odd. It sounds a little, in my opinion, narcissistic. I seriously doubt the grandmother hates her because she's young and beautiful. That sounded like really weird. But what really struck me as odd is when she said that she was parking on their street near the house and the grandfather yelled at her to leave, that he was going to call the police, and told her to, this is her quote, go smoke her problems somewhere else. Okay, that struck me as odd because she makes, several times she makes references to herb, let's say, and her smoking habits and how she thinks that, you know, it's perfectly fine. And apparently this is something she does. So that phrase that she used, go smoke your problems somewhere else. This is just my opinion, but it sounded to me, by the things that she said and the phraseology she used for what her grandfather said, like maybe part of the reason why they didn't want her to continue staying is because she was smoking and they didn't like that, which I can understand, you know, even if it is legal. That right there was like a red flag where I went, oh, that way she quoted her grandfather, that was really odd, because she hadn't mentioned like that there was any issue with that. But why would someone say go smoke your problems somewhere else? If what else could they possibly be referring to? So to me, it sounded like we didn't get the whole story. Like, I think that there was maybe some tension because of her willfulness, and maybe she didn't want to conform to the house rules where she was living with her family and they didn't want her doing stuff. So I think that, in my opinion, could be part of the problem. But, you know, that's just what I think from my listening to her. Okay, because I can't imagine someone saying, go smoke your problems somewhere else, if the problem was that her grandmother didn't like her because she was young and beautiful. I mean, it doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't add up. What do you think? Let me know what you think, okay? So on 8/13, she makes another video. And she says that she's quit her job and she's decided she's going to do YouTube full-time.
I do want to tell you, just to catch you up a little bit, that I officially quit my job and I have decided to do YouTube full-time.
Now, mind you, I know her channel has attracted a lot of subscribers in a short time. And I'm sure, you know, from what and I'll put up here what Social Blade, which is the website that sort of analyzes all the YouTube channel statistics, you know, from what they show, she could be making a decent amount of money every month from the number of subscribers that she's got. But it just seemed really kind of reckless and irresponsible to me that you're just starting out doing YouTube. And yes, you've got some really great early success that, you know, a lot of people, including myself, have not achieved yet. So I can understand you being excited, but quitting your job and saying you're going to do this full time? Like, you just started doing this. Why are you quitting your job until you make sure that this is going to be something that sticks? Because you don't have a track record yet. You know, you've got what, just over a month's worth of a track record, and already you're like quitting your job and this is going to be your life. And it's like, you know, so far all of her content has just been like, I'm living in my car. I'm living in my car. But, you know, the rest of it is, oh, I'm a vegan. Look at, I went to Starbucks. I eat out a lot. I have a gym membership. You know, all this stuff. And it was like, okay, so it just doesn't make any sense to me. If you were worried about what you were going to do to pay your bills and you had this initial success, I don't think any mature person after 6 weeks of being on YouTube would just say, I'm going to just say, screw my job. And by the way, she said she's like a project engineer, which, you know, she tried to downplay it, but I mean, it's not a receptionist job. So that just seems really odd to me. Like, I'm quitting my job. And then she goes on to say that she got a special invitation from a casting director for an opportunity with Squid Games.
Oh, and another thing, this is like a random thing that just like happened the other day. I was going through my emails and a casting director, producer, person, I don't really know what his title is, but he reached out to me via email and he offered me an opportunity to be part of Squid Games.
Now, I went and looked at the Squid Games auditions, and there's like thousands and thousands of people auditioning to be on there. She made it sound like, oh, this casting director contacted her and was basically offering her a part. And that just didn't sit well with me. And I saw some other people comment about it, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. Like, maybe they invited you to audition or something, but, you know, to make it sound like you've got this special in with them, just that struck me as also odd. And, you know, in one of her videos, she's like, I don't want to be an actress. But then in another video, she talks about all these opportunities that are coming in. And it sounds to me like she does want to be an actress, is what I think. I think that was her goal when she came to California. And so far, she hasn't, you know, had success with it. And so now she's trying to parlay this YouTube success into possibly getting her foot in the door somewhere, which I mean, good for her. That's not a problem for me, but don't try to make it sound like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but oh, I'm going to, you know, audition for these things because the opportunities are coming in. It's like, okay. Now, in this August 13th video, again, she's in a hotel without any explanation. And she goes to Starbucks, and this is where she shows her cup. And I'm going to put up the clip here. And you could see right on the label, it says Aryana, A-R-I-A-N-A. And it just seemed to me weird why she's saying it's A-R-Y, but she uses A-R-I in her channel name, and then her cup said Aryana with an I. That seemed really weird. But then she later in this August 13th video, she goes to a Mercedes dealership, and then, you know, doesn't really like film any of her interaction there. But then after, she says she went there to look at vans because she wants to buy a van. And that they only had two. They didn't have any new ones. They had a couple of used ones, but didn't sound like she really was interested in a used one, but she wanted to look at them just so she could see like what they were like inside. And that seemed odd to me. It's like, you know, that seemed almost like a flex when, you know, you're just starting to see some success. That seemed odd, especially if you're truly trying to watch your pennies and save some money like she said she was trying to do. That seemed just really odd to me. Like, why would you go to a Mercedes dealership? And then I think she must have gotten a lot of negativity from that post, because she later in another video tries to downplay as, oh, I can't afford a Mercedes, and oh, I just went there because, you know, it was close by or something, she says, and she just wanted to look at vans. And it just was like, okay, it just all seems so weird to me. You know, people, something is not right with this whole situation. Okay. Then the next video that I watched on August 15th, she's again at Starbucks, and she claims that she had to park at a parking meter, but she was all confused about the way they charge because she's never parked at a parking meter before. And I thought, Well, that's odd. If you've been living in your car and she says she's been doing this for like a year and you've never parked at a parking meter? That really? That just sounds really weird to me. It's like you've never parked at a parking meter. Okay, so that's odd. But okay, let's go past that. And then she says while she was at Starbucks, some guy's sandwich wrapper was blowing across the ground and she picked it up, and it just so happened she struck up a conversation with him, and he was a YouTube producer, she called him. But from the way she described it, it sounds like some guy who like does like editing or whatever, something for YouTube videos for people, because she said he's gonna help her with her channel. So, it didn't sound to me like he worked for YouTube. It sounded more like he was, like a freelancer or something. So that just also seemed a little convenient as well. All of a sudden, this particular video took on this like emphasis on God and the blessings she's got, and basically how God is giving her all these blessings. Okay, and she makes a comment like she says, "The more I do the car thing, the less I think I want to get a house." Which, okay, so that, the way she said car thing, that just sounded like a really flip response to me. She says in this August 15th video, she wants to give people hope, that they can write, if she can do it again, like I was saying at the beginning, if she can do it, they can do it. Now, okay, this really pisses me off, okay, because this woman who, I don't know whether she really lives in her car or not. That's, not for me to pass judgment on. I don't know if that's true or false. But this is my observation. She doesn't live in her car because she can't do anything else. It's not because she has absolutely no alternative, because has nothing to her name, and she has, no chances to get herself some kind of permanent housing, because she's admittedly works a full-time job. She goes to the gym all the time. She's supporting a vegan lifestyle, which, I'm not knocking it, but, it's not cheap when she's eating out all the time. It looks like, there's like one time she makes frozen lasagna in her little cooker, but it just was really weird. And I also noticed like one time her car was a mess and she tried to say, oh, well, it's because I pulled all my clothes out because I didn't know what to wear for work that day. And so I was like, oh, yeah, hey, that makes sense. That's fine. But then I noticed several other times that her car was a mess, and it wasn't just like she had just pulled all her clothes out. It was like there was crap in the back seat, and it didn't look like it was just from that morning. So that gave me pause too. It's like, well, when your car's that cluttered and it's not like that she's got her stuff packed in, like you see other people who say that they live in their cars and they've got like all kinds of stuff in their car, because they have nowhere else to put it. And so they've got like their life's possessions for what they are stuck in the car. Well, this wasn't that kind of clutter. This was like, shopping bags and things she had thrown in the back. And just, it looked to me like if you're sleeping in the back seat every single night, you wouldn't have that kind of clutter that looked like it had accumulated over a couple of days. Okay. That's just my opinion. So this is my take on the whole thing. All right. I think if she's living in her car, it's because she wants to live in her car. It's not because she can't afford it. It's not because there's nothing else, that it's the only choice she has other than like a homeless shelter. She's not homeless, okay, in the sense of how I interpret homelessness. If I suddenly decided I'm going to go live in my car and I'm a lawyer and I've got, my job and my income coming in, and I suddenly get rid of all these other bills, I'm not homeless. Okay. I've decided to make myself homeless. She's decided that, but she's not broke by her own admission. She certainly doesn't live like she's living from paycheck to paycheck. She's at Starbucks all the time, eating out all the time. She's got a gym membership. She's got an iPhone, an iPad. She never looks, she says, oh, I dress raggedy. But, not in this video that we're seeing her, she's saying, and it's like, well, I didn't see any time when she looked raggedy. She was dressed casually, but she always had makeup, and her hair never looked like it was, unkempt. And the whole thing just smells to me. And it sounds to me like she's got this high off of this sudden ad revenue that's coming in for her channel, and she's decided, oh, I'm going to quit my job now and I'm going to follow my dreams. And it's like, well, if you're truly that insecure about your future, your money, and your living situation, that's not something that a person who really was desperate would do. Okay? They would look at it as, okay, it's a windfall, great. So let's pay off bills, but I don't think that a person who was truly in that desperate situation would say, oh, now I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start auditioning for stuff. The whole thing, I think she's not genuine. I think she's a fake, to be honest with you. You may disagree with me. You're welcome to. Please don't send me hate. This is my opinion. You're entitled to yours. But in my observations, in my life experience, when I look at all these things, something doesn't add up. Something smells, okay? And I just don't think that she's the real deal. Okay? She's not somebody who's been forced to live in her car and that she's down and out and can't pull herself up, okay? Because she's living like she doesn't have a care in the world. She's, smoking herbs. She's going to the beach all the time. She's going to Starbucks every day. She's eating out all the time. She's going to the gym all the time. She's not living like a person who's down in her luck. She's not down in her luck. And for her to say, I want to be an inspiration to homeless people is really, to me, an insult to people who are really homeless, who are really in a desperate place, and they have no choice but to live the way they're living. Okay? And I think it just really pisses me off. She's trying to pass herself off as being like part of like the homeless problem, people who are involuntarily homeless. And she's trying to mix in with that and trying to hold her. This is another narcissistic thing. Several things that she's said or done just struck me as narcissistic. But to say, I want to be an inspiration and God has blessed me. Well, it's like, if you're gainfully employed and you have an income and you can afford to live this kind of carefree life, and you don't seem to have any qualms about spending your money on luxury stuff that most people who were in a bad way would have done away with, then you're not one of them. You're making a mockery of their situation by trying to pass yourself off as homeless. And she talked about all the donations people have sent her and how she didn't want to set up her Cash App and Patreon, but she did it because people asked her. And it's like, I don't know how much she's bringing in because there's no way to track that. But, she's clearly got a healthy income right now. And I emphasize right now coming in from this YouTube stuff. But, that could end tomorrow. And especially if more people start to get skeptical of her and she starts to lose subscribers and her ad revenue goes down, what is she going to do? Then she's probably really going to be homeless. She's not going to have a choice because now she's quit her job and thinking that, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber full time when she's got, 85,000 subscribers? It's not like she has, 1 million subscribers and, she's got enough of a cushion. She's not going to have to worry about it. That's my take on it. Tell me what you think. I don't think she's for real. I think this is a lifestyle choice for her. She's trying to be a bohemian kind of person, and that's great. I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking her choices. I'm just saying she shouldn't be trying to make it out that she's, desperate and she's homeless and trying to lump herself in with people who are really in a desperate situation. I think it's disgusting, frankly, and I think it's an insult to all those people who are really struggling to make it. So, All In With Ariana, to me, is another one of these pop-up fakes. And, I'm sure over time it's going to come crashing down. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd be interested to know. I really appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all of our supporters. Thank you so much, you guys. And I will see you in the next one.